Morning, everyone. We're going to get started. Thank you all for being here. My name is Lori Charlton. I chair the Board of Finance. I'll call this hearing to order and ask that we all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you again, everyone, for being here. Today's hearing is for us to take feedback from the public, not to speak to you, but just to listen to everyone's feedback on this budget. Thank you again for being here. Thank you for your advocacy. We've gotten a lot of emails from all of you. We really appreciate it. Appreciate the public engagement and input. And again, thank you. Before we get started, I'm just going to take a minute to let my colleagues introduce myself, and maybe I'll start at to my right at the end of the table.
Kevin Stark. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for being here. Shane Penley.
Good morning. I'm Craig Curley.
Hey, everyone. John Matola. I was off. Can you hear me now? Good morning, John Matola.
Hi, Amy Ruggiero.
Good morning, Jim Myers.
Okay, thank you, everyone. And our two colleagues that could not make it this morning, Jim Walsh and Mary LeClaire. Okay, so anyone that wants to speak, the process is please come up to the mic here. There is a sign-up sheet. We ask that you state your name and address for the record. Make your comments. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. And when everyone's had an opportunity to speak, then we'll circle back to the board members for some closing comments. So whoever wants to start, please go ahead, come up. Please speak clearly into the mic. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Nora Romeo. I'm a fourth grader at McKinley Elementary School. I'm proud to be a part of Fairfield Public Schools, and I look forward to taking advantage of all of the things available that will help me to become the best version of myself. My friends and I are the future. Our education will determine what we contribute to the world and to this town. We can be the best at what we do, or we can move away to somewhere that will value us. The choice is in your hands right now. I'm asking you once more to fully fund the school budget for next school year. Whatever struggles that you may have with the town budget, I guarantee that the schools is your best bet to make this town stronger and to make the future for all of us better. Thank you for all your hard work, and thank you for supporting my education.
Good morning. Thank you so much for being here and for listening to us today. I'm here with my second grader from Stratfield Elementary School. And, I'm very upset to hear about the proposed budget cuts. A school cannot function properly with the reduction suggested. As a teacher who's worked in a district that has been impacted by cuts such as these, I experienced this firsthand, how children and teachers are directly impacted, and it's not good. Not only are programs like STEAM and foreign language part of a foundation to the education of the entire child, but are you aware that these classes also function as prep periods for the classroom teachers? It allows my child's teacher the necessary time to prepare classroom materials, presentations, and individual learning plans so that my child can be successful. When do you expect them to do this? Are you aware that taking away any specials makes it harder for their homeroom teacher to have both mental and physical energy to run a classroom alone all day? This is unfair to my child and to the teacher. And this is exactly the thinking that went into the cuts made at my former district that made me feel forced to leave. Truthfully, I almost left teaching altogether, in all honesty. These cuts will ultimately create an imbalance in workload for the teachers and will force them to work harder than they ever have, directly impacting how much support a teacher can give to individual students. Do you really want teachers to feel overwhelmed and under-supported, forcing them to leave the district? Really, that's what I want to emphasize. That would be an absolute shame, and that would also tarnish the reputation of the district. And I know this because I've seen it in the district that I had to leave. A very well-respected district. The board may only see it as 2 specials being cut, a line item on the budget, but I promise you, from my personal experience, you'll lose many more teachers than just these after the cuts, because it does impact really everyone. It does. And as a parent coming to a district like Fairfield, I was overwhelmed with promise, thinking that my child could have this outlet as STEAM. It's one of her favorite classes really to attend. She's not quite at Spanish level yet, but she will be learning that next year. And she comes each week asking questions, making connections to the world around her because of STEAM. And my daughter may one day become an engineer or programmer or architect because of this experience at a very impressionable age. So please don't take that away from her. Fairfield schools are the foundation of our town's success, and investing in them is investing in our children. So I know this is a very unpredictable time, and this is the kind of stability and value that we need to be able to hold on to here in Fairfield. So thank you very much for listening. Thank you.
My name is Thea, and I'm a 5th grader at Sherman School who's on the student council. I came here to ask the Board of Finance to fully fund the education budget. I think we should keep STEAM and Spanish in our elementary school curriculum. I think it's important for Fairfield students to learn a second language in school, such as Spanish. According to Michigan State University, bilingual children may have a superior ability to focus on one thing and change their response, easily indicating cognitive flexibility. This shows that learning a second language at an early age helps improve important school skills. My friend in Westport started Spanish in kindergarten instead of 3rd grade. If we took away Spanish altogether, that would make things even worse, since we would be even more behind our peers. Spanish has also taught me so much about geography, which otherwise isn't offered in elementary schools. But cutting Spanish isn't the only thing that would affect children and their learning. STEAM is just as important, if not more, than learning a second language. I've taken 6 years of STEAM at Sherman Elementary. I've been taught about nature, science, technology, and much more. In the past 2 years, I have learned so much about coding and how to work with variables. We have also begun to learn about chatbots and how to interact with them. AI is changing the world, and we're getting an advantage by learning about communicating with chatbots now. We live in a digital world, and there's technology all around us. If you want to grow to be successful, learning about science and technology now will strongly benefit us in the future. But what if we take away the STEAM programs, aren't we just setting ourselves up for a more difficult future later on? Mrs. Newton has also taught us about many opportunities in school to look at and do things in a creative way. And there aren't many other opportunities in school to look at and do things this way. And this further backs up the thesis that we should keep STEAM in our curriculum. Lastly, my STEAM teacher is so kind, organized, and patient, and teaches at several different schools. So it would be a huge loss for the children in the district to lose such a dedicated teacher. Thanks for listening. I hope you consider this when you make your decision.
Hi, I came here today, I should stand on that piano, but to ask you to fully fund the proposed education budget.
Can you state your name too?
Oh, sorry, I'm Amanda Morgan. Do you need my address? 309 Roland Road.
Thank you.
And that was my daughter from the same address. When we moved to Fairfield in 2014, we chose the town in part because of the wonderful experience I'd had teaching at Fairfield Ludlow High School. I'd taught in other neighboring districts, but felt that Fairfield had high standards and a culture of respect for teachers among students. I saw students leaving high school well prepared to succeed in rigorous college programs, and that the district was able to compete with its peers for the best candidates for open positions. I fear that if I were applying for teaching jobs now or considering a move to Fairfield County now, I might not feel the same. One can tell a lot about a town from how it funds its schools. Fairfield already stands out in contrast with Westport, Weston, Easton, and Reading for its late introduction of foreign language in third grade rather than kindergarten, and for the less robust science and technology programs available to high school students, where, for instance, Fairfield offers 20 science classes in high school, Westport offers 49. Making cuts at the elementary school level to Spanish and STEAM would not only have immediate obvious effects of limiting students' access to these subjects, but would send a message that Fairfield is not willing to invest in its schools. Down the road, these cuts will be reflected in all the data, for instance, high school test scores, that families often use when weighing their housing options. Although I recognize that the BOE has already finalized the budget, and this meeting today is regarding the potential for additional cuts to elementary Spanish and STEAM, I feel I'd be remiss not to mention that the superintendent's budget already reflects cuts that will seriously compromise Fairfield's ability to attract and retain teachers. In light of recent suggestions by some Board of Education members that teachers are looking to pad their salaries with seventh-year certifications, I'd like to point out that according to the current contract, it is not until her 16th year of employment that a teacher with a master's degree would earn more than the income limit for a family of 4 to qualify for low-income housing in Fairfield. Every teacher I know works at least one additional job, not to pad a salary, but to make ends meet. Thank you.
Hello, Board of Finance. My name is Skylar Savage. I'm a third grader at NSS. I live at 337 Random Road. I'm here to ask you to fully fund our public schools budget. If you do not, we could lose subjects like Spanish and STEAM. We need Spanish because we don't have it. We can't communicate with citizens that speak Spanish that have come here for a better life. And if we can't understand them, they can't get a good job and a better life they keep searching for. And if we wanted to visit a Spanish-speaking country, we can't communicate with people. And we have to have STEAM because we need to learn science, technology, engineering, art, mathematics. And if we don't learn those, we can't get a good job. Me and many other kids love it because it allows us to use our hands to do activities and not just worksheets all day. And if we lose these subjects, many kids like me will be disappointed to see them go. I hope I've convinced you to fully fund our public schools and keep the buses we use twice every day to take us to and from our schools that teach us the subjects that we love. Thank you very much for your time.
Good morning. My name is Courtney Radosayevich. I live at 337 Random Road. Thank you for all you do for the residents of Fairfield. I realize setting the budget is no easy task, and I commend you for all the tough decisions you have to make. It's not an easy job. I'm a parent, former PTA president, green team leader, and avid volunteer at North Stratfield School and in the community at large. I urge you not to proceed with the cuts to our school district budget. These cuts would be devastating to our children's access to a well-rounded education. I have volunteered tirelessly and selflessly at our school district. I have been in the classrooms to see how hard the teachers work, what lessons the children are learning, and how the facilities are being taken care of. Everyone and every building, including our custodial staff, is already stretched so thin. These cuts would impact many different areas, both inside and outside the schools. Eliminating teacher positions would put more stress on our already overworked teachers. Spanish and STEAM are foundational parts of our curriculum. I have helped guide pollinator lessons with our STEAM teachers for first grade. We got the kids outside to see pollinators at work. The smiles of pure joy seeing these lessons come alive versus just reading about them in a textbook was priceless. They made curricular connections using all of their senses that link them with their environment. Spanish teaches our kids empathy, how to learn and accept new cultures, and it has been proven that introducing a foreign language to elementary school kids increases their memory, communication, and problem-solving skills. These cuts would also reduce the amount of children who get bused to school, which would prevent parents from getting to work on time, especially now that more companies are ending remote working. It would also add more cars on the road, more pollution, and more pedestrian accidents due to unsafe walkways to school, which there are many around Fairfield. Fairfield is a desirable town. People move here specifically for the schools, the quality of the teachers, and the community. All those new homes you are building will not sell if budget cuts like this are made to Fairfield's most vital resources. We should be investing in our future, not taking away from it. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Constantine Veneris, 100 Mill River Road. I have two children at Riverfield Elementary School, one of which is Abigail who's sitting there. We live right in the proximity for the busing that's being canceled. I think sometimes everyone forgets that there sometimes are two parents working. And unfortunately, my first meeting starts at about 8:15. So the kids get on the bus at 8:10. I just have enough time to get in the car so I can continue to my office as I'm on video call on 995 South. That's my biggest issue. Cutting steam, especially for children like my daughter Abigail, who does have a speech issue. She's gone to ECC. She does a lot of speech therapy work within Riverfield. It affects them going forward, especially with lack of access to STEAM and having the ability to learn coding, understand how to do different things that would actually empower little girls to work in the tech field. I advise you to reconsider the budget and make sure that it's fully available for our children. Thank you. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Jen Barwinski, 50 Drum Road. My husband and I have been Fairfield residents for 13 years, and we have a third grader and a kindergartner. I'm asking that the Board of Finance restore the 1.9 million to fully fund the schools. I admit that I'm new to all this. To be honest, I've been unaware of the whole budget process until I saw that budget cuts were causing the Board of Ed to look seriously at taking bus service away from children in order to save money. I have attended the various town body meetings, and I've learned more about the budget. And to be honest, I don't see a lot of padding. I see our schools getting hit from all sides. The state is reimbursing us less and less for special education costs. Teacher pay has been too low for years, and we're finally rectifying that with raises and lane changes. And our schools feel the pinch of inflation just like the rest of us do, as seen in the transportation contract increase. In the background, there are much needed investments in our schools that aren't even being attempted in this budget. The Board of Ed has 17 facilities to maintain, some of them in desperate need of updating. Our town's ECCs are shoved into other schools instead of having their own space. And we have been underinvesting for so long in our teachers and staff that we need to right the ship and start paying competitive wages, like the contractual raises in this budget. All the town bodies voted for the raises, but it seems like the Board of Ed is being told to find that money elsewhere in the budget because the raises make the numbers unattractive. On a personal note, I have seen in my daughter's elementary school how trying to optimize staff can affect students and families. My third grader has been in school for 4 years, and her school has had 4 different social workers in that time. I can only assume because they left for surrounding districts that perhaps pay better. And each of these social workers already split their time between our school and another school, presumably in order to save money. The Board of Ed is already doing things like this to keep costs down and maximize efficiency. And now we're looking at taking buses away from kids who live a mile from the school and possibly cutting programming if these cuts remain in place. No one loves paying more in taxes, but as a taxpayer, I want us to invest more in our schools. I brought my daughters here today so that they could see adults from all across our town coming to advocate for public education. It's a core value in our family, and I believe in our community, which is what led my husband and me to settle here 13 years ago. I don't see this as a shooting for the moon budget request with plenty of fat that can be trimmed. I see a maintaining current offerings while absorbing higher cost budget. I think systemic changes like service sharing with the town and encouraging non-lapsing accounts for the Board of Ed are great ideas, as I learned at the last meeting, and can be explored. But for now, our schools need the funding that our Board of Ed is asking for to keep things afloat. We residents can't vote directly to fund our schools. We voted for the Board of Ed to determine what our schools needed, and we voted for the Board of Finance to fund them. Please hear our voices and fully fund our schools so that we can continue to offer excellent education and work to bring more programming and services to our children, not less. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Anthony Macchia. I'm at 10 Four Seasons Road. I'm here with my daughters, Lily and Alyssa. They are both students at North Stratfield School. Unlike most other people here, I don't have a written script, but I will echo a lot of the comments said already, which is I moved to Fairfield some 11 years ago, specifically because of the schools and the quality of the education. And that sort of cutting the budget would harm what I feel is sort of the cultural heart of Fairfield. Most people, if you talk to them that are trying to bring up families, like move here specifically for the schools, it is a huge consideration in terms of where you make one of the biggest investments of your life, which is housing. And it is kind of becomes the cultural fabric that we sort of all enjoy and experience here in Fairfield. So I would ask the finance committee, and let me say, first of all, working in finance, thank you all for your time with the board. I've worked in it many years myself. That thank you for your commitment towards this, and I would kindly and strongly ask that we maintain the budget for our Fairfield schools. I'm going to hand it over to my daughter for a quick statement. Lily.
Hi, my name is Lily Mackey. I'm a fourth grader from North Stratfield School. I think that you should keep the budget because I think it would do a lot of harm to my school and a bunch of other schools to cut the budget. So.
Thank you very much.
All right. My name is Allison Schenker. I live at 25 Harwich Road. I have two children in the Fairfield Public Schools, one at Woods, one at North Stratfield. I am also a proud teacher at McKinley School. The future of our children depends on the quality of our schools. And the quality of our schools depends on the support of our community. And that support starts with you. Time and time again, we hear comparisons to our neighboring town of Westport. But let me be very clear. I do not want to be Westport. I didn't choose to live in Westport. I didn't choose to teach in Westport. I chose Fairfield. Everyone in this room did. And now I ask you to do the same. Choose Fairfield. Invest in Fairfield. Our students, our teachers, and our families deserve a school system that reflects the values of this community, one that is strong, well-respected, and supported. You have the power to make that happen. You have the power to restore the budget. This is not just a financial decision, it is a commitment to the students who walk through the doors every day. It is a commitment to my fellow educators who dedicate their lives to shaping the next generation of leaders and to the families who trust that their children will receive the education that they deserve. I urge you, do what is right, do what is necessary, support Superintendent Testani, fully fund the budget, choose Fairfield. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Lauren Noonan. I am 91 Stoneleigh Square, and I am one of the STEAM teachers here in Fairfield. I want to give you a little background. I grew up here. I went to North Stratfield, Tomlinson, and graduated from the high school. My mom taught here in this district for 42 years, and my children are now 3rd and 5th graders at North Stratfield. As you can see, I am deeply invested in the education in this town. That said, I have been teaching with the STEAM program since its 2nd year. I can't tell you how strongly I feel that this is the future of our education here in this town. Our teachers work so hard, but teaching STEAM has changed my life. I teach students to problem solve, to see the world as it is and how they can change it, to advocate. And this is evident when I invite you all to come judge at the invention convention next year. I always have judges walking out saying, I can't believe what these kids did. And to tell you the truth, neither can I. I am blown away every year by their ingenuity, their creativity, and their hard work. I beg you to consider keeping the budget. And also to promote for my language teachers, friends, and colleagues, knowing several languages is a superpower. And that's something that we also cannot afford to lose. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for taking the time to be here today. My name is Emily Duell. I live at 469 Woodridge, and I'm the mother of 5th grade twins at Jennings. Sorry. You may have heard the quote from author H. Jackson Brown. Remember that children, marriages, and flower gardens reflect the kind of care they get. The investment in these things is perhaps uncertain, but also relays a sense of love, hope, and nurturing. The children of this community spend the majority of their days in school as they learn about the world we live in, beginning right here at home in Fairfield. Fully funding the Board of Education budget is an investment in the future of Fairfield, Connecticut, the United States, and the future for all of us. I want to provide a voice for my family and for the countless others who couldn't attend today due to work and family commitments. While it's a privilege to live in a community like this, many people are stretching themselves to do so, particularly for the sake of their children. Investing in the children in this community and their education is one of the most valuable resources. Living in a community that values education is very important and is a large reason why my family moved here in 2020. When we invest in our children, we're showing them the good in the world and that there is hope in their futures. And what you spend your time and money on equates to what you value. So I'm asking you to show the students, all of them, that they're valued in this community and restore the budget that is to be fully funded. Thank you. And we have the troop 30441 here to speak as well.
My name is Margot. We are Girl Scouts, and this year, Girl Scout delegates from every council debated for 12 hours over whether Girl Scouts of the USA should increase membership dues. In the end, the Scouts voted to increase annual membership dues 160% because they knew it was the right thing to do to guarantee the continued success of Scouting through improved programming and marketing. Thank you. Hello, my name is Ella. I live in Lake Hills, and this year our association debated whether we should raise membership dues. In the end, 250 homes, a majority of our association, voted to increase annual membership dues by 44%, recognizing it was the right thing to do. To preserve the lake community we love against increasing costs for insurance and water safety. Thank you. Hello, my name is Samantha. I am a student at Jennings Elementary School and the daughter of a Fairfield Public Schools teacher. This year, our Girl Scout troop attended several Board of Education meetings. We listed our education board members, debated over the budget, working together to stretch every dollar, and making difficult decisions to cut where they could. In the end, they set the budget at $235 million, acknowledging it was the right amount needed to maintain the high level of education excellence our parents moved here for. My name is Ava. We are saddened to hear the first selectman decided education is the place where spending should be cut, when everyone else around us is increasing their investments to secure our future. In the end, we hope the Board of Finance will vote to fully fund the Board of Education budget because it's the right thing to do for Fairfield.
Hi, my name is Michelle Walker, 127 Blue Ridge Road. I'm here as a parent of 3 students in the Fairfield Public School System, 2 at McKinley and 1 at Tomlinson. All 3 of my kids have thrived in the Fairfield Public Schools. Like many, we moved here for the excellent education in the Fairfield Public Schools, and I'm here to advocate for this excellence to continue. Our schools are a major draw for families in our community. Please restore the $1.9 million cut to our BOE. Our schools are one of the pillars of the community, and we need the funds to continue to foster the growth and development of our students. Please restore the full BOE budget and vote to fully fund the BOE budget for our students, teachers, and schools. Thank you.
Good morning. All right. Good morning. I'm Michaela Chattel. I live at 15 Sedan Terrace. I'm here to urge you to fully fund the Board of Education budget. First, thank you for your work. Thank you for hearing us. And thank you to the Board of Selectmen, the First Selectman, for reducing the gap of needed funding. But there's still a significant gap. The $1.9 million needed are more than just numbers in a spreadsheet. They're a threat to our community's future. Quality education is the lifeblood of a thriving town, and right now we're risking what makes Fairfield special. Our schools are our most important economic asset. They drive property values, they attract young families, they define our community's reputation. Already we're seeing families leave for neighboring towns. I have a friend who moved to Trumbull, where they can get a larger home, more land, and they do boast high-ranking schools. Fairfield's reputation of educational excellence is why many families come here and stay here. It was for me. My husband and I are Fairfield University graduates. We decided to buy a home here 14 years ago because we knew when we had kids, we wanted to raise our kids in Fairfield. We could absolutely get a bigger home 15 minutes away and still enjoy the lovely things that Fairfield has to offer, the restaurants and all of that fun. But the education is why we stay here. The teachers, the specialists, the unique programming that my kids have received, it's what keeps us firmly planted here. With surrounding communities investing heavily in education, we can't afford to take a step backwards. And the timing really couldn't be worse.
with potential federal education cuts on the horizon, we would be self-inflicting damage before we even understand the education budget, and the additional reductions that our schools may be facing. By fully funding the education budget, we give ourselves a fighting chance to weather inevitable challenges. Most of these reductions would impact elementary schools. Elementary school is where the foundation of lifelong learning begins. It's where it's built. It's where kids decide, do I love school? Do I hate school? Am I good at something? Am I not? Do I try or do I kind of give up? It's where this all is built. And every program cut, every resource reduced directly impacts our children's future. Cutting critical programs like STEAM and Spanish, it's not just bad PR for our town. It actually, it's a huge loss for our students. They're necessities in a technology-driven world that demands innovative thinking and global communication skills. While I understand the budget constraints are real and this is hard work that you're doing, I implore you to fully fund our education budget for the good of our students and our town's future. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Elaine Thomas Davis, 206 Farmington Avenue. I am the Board of Education Budget Representative for Fairfield Woods Middle School. I have been a lifelong resident and alum of the Fairfield schools myself. I have been a proud PTA volunteer for over 30 years. Both of my children are alums of the Fairfield Schools program, and I am currently raising my 13-year-old granddaughter as a senior citizen, and she attends Fairfield Woods Middle School. I implore you to do the right thing and to fully fund the budget as presented initially by the Board of Education. They've made their cuts already. They're presenting you with as bare bones as possible. Please do the right thing for the children and the future of Fairfield and support the budget as presented by the Board of Education. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jasmina Martin. I live at 246 Bennett Street. Thank you first off for all of your time and effort. I'm sure you didn't want to spend your Saturday sitting here listening to all of us drown on about why it's so important that you fully fund the budget. But I have a kindergartner in North Stratfield School and a incoming 4-year-old that will be going to ECC. And the entire reason my family is in Fairfield is because of the schools. Originally, we wanted to move to Black Rock, where we have several friends, expats from New York that live there. And when we made our decision, it was because of the schools. We did not want to feel like we had to send our children to private school to get a good enough education. And we really believed that Fairfield Public Schools were going to give it to them in a community setting where they could be around peers and have specials. And most importantly, for my son, ride the bus. We would lose our bus access. And for anyone that's tried to walk down Stratfield Road towards the Merritt, it's not the safest for a 5-year-old. And STEAM is his absolute favorite special. School is already so hard and our teachers are doing so much every day to bridge the gap. I am a classroom mom and I will tell you that I've had to go out and get glue sticks and paper towels and Clorox wipes and hand sanitizer for our class. We're already bridging the gap as parents and we're already volunteering and putting in the effort to support our teachers. And I'm just going to implore you to do the same thing and fully fund the budget. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Melissa Miller and I live at 462 Wormwood Road. And I also want to thank you for all of your time and hard work on this. I'm a parent of a 4th grader and kindergartner at Osborne Hill School.
And like all the previous comments, I have the same exact message. I'm simply here to advocate for you to fully fund the budget. It is so important that we support our kids and invest in our future. Like the other parents said, we are bridging the gap in so many different ways, and I believe in them, and they need our schools to be fully funded so they can continue to thrive. Thank you.
Hi, good morning. My name is Joe Clausen. I live at 470 Cornell Road. My wife, 2 children, and I moved here a few years ago. My daughter is in kindergarten at Stratfield, and my son will be at the same school in a couple of years. One of the primary reasons we moved here from New York City was for the quality of the public education. I fully support restoring the $1.9 million budget gap. Not doing so will have a negative effect on the quality of the local schools. I understand budgeting can call for difficult decisions. Reducing the quality of the public schools and removing busing, which impacts parents' work commutes and leads to safety concerns for some students, will reduce the demand of people wanting to move to Fairfield, as well as cause current residents to rethink why they moved here. Thank you for your time and listening to all of us this morning.
Morning, everybody. I'm Jeff Peterson, 133 Martin Avenue. I'm the current chair of the Board of Education and I'm a 1988 graduate of this building. You won't be surprised to hear that I'm advocating for a full restoration of the Board of Ed's approved budget. The budget you currently have before you incorporates a $1.95 million cut relative to our request. Now, the next fiscal year will present significant cost pressures for the district with a new and much needed teachers contract coming online, a steep ramp in transportation costs, and continued rises in special education costs. Added to that, during the BOE's budget process, we were hit with $888,000 in unanticipated health insurance costs from the state, as well as a $209,000 pension adjustment from the town. And while this year's request is steeper due to those factors, it bears repeating that in a 3-year look back, Fairfield compares very well to many of our neighbors and close peers. 3-year averages from Westport, Farmington, Monroe, Cheshire, South Windsor, and West Hartford have been higher. Nevertheless, to try and mitigate this constellation of pressures, the BOE voted to approve $2.3 million in cuts before we even sent our budget to the town. And these were hard cuts to make, involving reductions to personnel, IT, and maintenance spending. And when it comes to maintenance, I want to remind everybody that the average age of a public school building in Fairfield is 64 years. Simply put, further cuts beyond our original request, I think, will be very difficult to make. Now, there's been some discussion of whether the BOE can carry over surpluses from this year to the next, thereby moderating our request. Unfortunately, as the Board of Finance knows, the district is currently projecting a deficit for the current fiscal year. And some state aid that was meant to address special education costs will be needed in the current fiscal year. All this means that we may need to trim our spending between now and June to make sure that we end in balance. I think planning for a carryover surplus in this kind of environment is just unrealistic. And as you all know, this is not a budget that's overloaded with frills. We're not planning to roll out any massive new programs or make any frivolous investments. This budget represents our go-forward costs in an environment where everything is getting more expensive. Special ed is a great example of this. While we've worked hard to build programs to keep more of Fairfield students in town, which has resulted in an estimated cost avoidance of more than $16 million per year, our costs for outplacements and contracted services have shot up at the same time that our state reimbursements have shrunk. I believe that BOE's $2.3 million in budget reductions represents a good faith effort to be a partner with the town in what I acknowledge is a difficult budget year. But I remain concerned that another $1.95 million in cuts on top of that will be very difficult to digest. I know you've worked very diligently through the budget process, and I know you have very difficult decisions before you. I just hope you would consider these factors as you move forward. And thank you very much for your service.
Good morning. My name is Tim Brunker. I live at 38 Orchard Hill Lane, and I'm probably going to be detractor for the rest of the team, the folks here. I think that the budget is high. I think that we need to make more cuts. And I think some of the risks that are in this budget speak that, you know, like the investment stuff that we've got in there with the markets where they're at right now, with what's going on with the economy. I think we made some highfalutin guesses and what some of the money's gonna be coming in. And I think it's gonna be tough to pull in without raising taxes. And I think we're raising taxes and we've got a budget that's high. So I ask you guys to take another look, take a look at the assumptions, and I know it's a tough job. I've run companies too, and you know, it's always easy to say, oh yeah, we want this, we want to add this, right? But in a tough time, and I think it's getting tougher, and it's gonna get tougher, I think we need to take a look at it. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Daniel Jacobs. I'm a paraprofessional at Fairfield High School. I live at 328 Brewster Street in Brock Rock, Connecticut. I am, so I'm a para, and I want to say the first thing I came here when I thought of this meeting was I have to come here to defend my job, because it's really important to think about. Like, if sped paras are cut, if there's budget decrease, I feel like it's going to seriously affect the possibility of my actual working over the next few years, and it's definitely a problem, not just for me, but I feel like for a lot of people in my position. And the other thing is that I feel as though there's been a national trend or effort to make cuts in education, right? So I feel as though the truth is, like, even though there's lots of educational naysayers who say like you shouldn't necessarily fund education right now because we have so many other things to worry about, I do feel as though it's a mistake to say that we're going to not fund education because it's not important for the future. Because right now it's like the present is really actually what we should be focusing on. And the truth of the matter is you cannot, like that guy from The Sound of Music said, you can't outwit a lion by putting your head in its mouth and pretending that it's not going to eat you. Okay? So I feel like you got to really like try to focus on like the present, you know? Like what is the present right here? The people are the present ultimately. The people are the most important thing. And I feel as though if people are not being valued right now, like education is a way of valuing people, right? So, yeah, like even if we can't seem to afford our current educational standard, if it seems like our budget is just too high, if you just think about also like, is it possible that we're not funding there are other areas where you are thinking about funding that we're just not like paying attention to education, therefore? Like, do you think it's possible that like education is being neglected because we're actually paying more attention to other things? It's food for thought. I'm just saying, like maybe like there's a reality that we could be funding other things too much and maybe education too little. I know you guys are in charge of. You guys have been handed this budget, so it's not really your fault in that sense. But I think in terms of actual deciding upon education, is you should decide definitely to fund the full budget. I know from my experience as an alumni at Fairfield High School, where I now work actually, that foreign language programs which are now on the chopping block, French program, we went to Quebec, my friends and I. That was an absolutely crucial formative experience for me. And I feel as though it definitely helped me form my experiences of high school and my life beyond it. And I feel like if that had been cut nowadays, I don't know that I would have had that experience. So I really feel like it's important to remember that. Like so many kids rely upon these foreign language programs to actually have valuable experiences right now in the present moment. And lastly, I feel like it's like building a budget is kind of like drafting Magic the Gathering cards in a way. In the sense of like when you don't actually know, like it's one of my hobbies, you know what I mean? So it's like when you're doing that, you don't actually know whether or not the cards you're picking are going to be good or not. But you only know your causes they're making are efforts, you know, their efforts towards the future. And when you're making that effort, right, you have to like decide, okay, what's valuable right now? So again, let's focus on the present. Let's decide, okay, the people are most valuable. And three, it's not about like the future per se. It's just about education right now and valuing the people in front of us. So yes, thank you.
Good morning, members of the Board of Finance. My name is Tricia Pitko. I have been a resident of this town for 41 years. I graduated from Fairfield High in 1996. I'm raising my daughter, who is a sixth grader here in town, and I'm also a teacher now. This is my third year teaching in Fairfield. I am a science, tech ed, and special education teacher at the Walter Fitzgerald campus. I'm also a former Board of Ed member, and I know how important our operating budget is. I just want to reiterate and support our Board of Ed members who are here and also our superintendent that this money would have a significant cut on the education here in Fairfield. It's not a little amount of money, and myself and my daughter are both in the special programming that are in town, and they're very unique and what makes so much of our town very special, that we can have children raised here and learn science and tech ed and other languages. And I would hope to consider to see that and to improve on it. Thank you.
My name is, wait. My name is Caesar, and I go to McKinley Elementary School. My grandparents came from Brazil and worked really hard to live in Fairfield for the schools. My mommy works really hard to keep me in Fairfield because she trusts the schools. Please don't compromise the education for generations of Fairfield people.
Ugh, okay. Hi, I'm Suzanne Miska, 123 Rygate Road. I know you know of me because I've plastered your website and emails religiously since this process has began. And I want to thank those of you who have responded. I want to thank Chairwoman Charlton for our great exchange and our respectful dialogue that has taken place. I'm not sure what zone we were when this budget was created. We had a past administration that decided that our budget and town needed to be shrunk in size, and we had early retirements that have now added to our pension and our OPEB benefits as we're going to go forward. Now we have a new administration who's decided that that's not the way it needs to be, and we have increase of salaries, because I hear it's hard to get people who want to work in the town of Fairfield at salaries. We've added, I'm sorry, a new position for Mr. Calabrese to take. I sat through the town attorney's discussion of that. I hope you got something different out of it. My thought was, this is a new position of which now I'm also going to pay a new director of Parks and Rec. I don't know where everyone thought the money was coming from. Grand List is up 0.25%, and we are, unless behind John Sullivan Independence Hall, there's a gold box with gold bars. I don't know where this is coming from. There's 3 items in the budget. I'm not going to talk education. We have a whole room of education to talk about. I'm going to talk about police. I appreciate that, you know, as a town grows, you need police and safety and security, and I am not questioning the quality of what we have. But why are we asking for 8 officers in 1 year? This can't have come as a decision and that we needed 8 officers just this year, of which 2 are sergeants. I don't understand the sergeant that we need to help the officer that sits at central office with the superintendent. I think $1.5 million in, you know, police
can we spread that out a little bit so that as the taxpayer, we're not taking one big hit all at the same time? And if there's a problem with retention, then I think as a community, we need to talk about what that is and why that is. My second problem is the camera situation. I appreciate we want safety. I appreciate that we should maybe put, flashing lights at all crosswalks in front of schools so there's proper notification of what's going on. But the fact that we are going to put 15 cameras at a cost with an algorithm that basically almost every member of the town of Fairfield will be paying $65 in some sort of ticket to make a revenue for the budget is absurd. Then you might as well just put on the bottom of the tax form, here's the $50 donation to the budget for safety and security. But do not sit here and tell me that we are now going to look at all of our citizens in this town as being guilty because we will all use $65. The last comment I want to make is on the parking authority. I have yet to see from the first selectman, and I've read his explanation to the RTM, exactly why we are going for a money grab right now with the parking authority. And having read the state statute and no legal opinion from the town attorney, I want to know how we're guaranteeing that this budget is going to get $1 million. So $1.9 million is a big question mark. The Traffic Advisory Commission has not even sent anything to Connecticut DOT. We have not had a town hall, yet we put $900,000 on an algorithm on the backs of the citizens. We then have $1 million we think we're going to take from parking authority. You got it. Okay, I'm sorry. $1 million. So what happens when that $1.9 million doesn't come through? That's all I'm saying. Please keep that in mind. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sarah Clausen. I live at 470 Cornell Road. My family and I moved to Fairfield 4 years ago with 2 small children. This guy who will be coming up to Stratfield Elementary next September, and my 5-year-old who's in the audience at Stratfield. She's a kindergartner. With the primary reason being the quality of the public education offered here. When I say we looked at 500 towns, it felt like it, and we settled on Fairfield. I would not be here if it was not for the quality of the public education. We thought it was a given, and I was wrong, which is really disheartening to me that we have to fight so hard for it. And I'm so new to this. My kindergartner is my eldest, so I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm here because I care about the kids. And I'm here because I love this town. We want to stay here forever. I want that to be a given too. And it will not be if we don't get this educational budget funded. So that is why I'm here to ask for that. My daughter comes home every day with the most wonderful stories about how much fun she had at school and how much she learned. And I want that to continue, and I want the programs to continue being amazing. And they won't be if we don't have the programming and the teachers. She already has 22 kids in her kindergarten class. It's so many kids. I don't even know how the teacher does it, and she does it with grace. And I love her so much, and we don't want to make this harder for her. That's why I'm here. So thank you so much for listening, and I really appreciate all the work you do.
Oh my gosh. My name is so long, which is why this is going to take a while. Marta Mwambalakutu. All right, I'm going to talk while I write. I am a parent of 2 awesome kids in the Fairfield Public Schools, and I am also an elementary Spanish teacher. Proud and very passionate about what I do. So good morning to the Board of Finance. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you. I am here to urge you to fully fund the Board of Education's proposed budget, a budget that is not just about numbers, but about investing in the future of our children and our community. Education is the foundation of a thriving town. It attracts families, as you can see, strengthens property values, and most importantly, prepares our students for success in an increasingly competitive world. However, if this budget is reduced, we risk losing vital programs, staff, and resources that directly impact student learning and well-being. STEAM education,
Elementary Spanish and reliable transportation services are not luxuries, they are essential. STEAM programs provide students with critical thinking and problem-solving skills that prepare them for careers in science, technology, engineering, and math, fields that drive our economy. Early exposure to Spanish enhances cognitive development and cultural awareness, equipping our students to compete in a globalized world. And transportation cuts would create hardships for families, as have been mentioned, affecting attendance and safety. Behind every line item that the BOE has presented in this budget is a teacher, a student, and a future opportunity. Reducing it means fewer learning opportunities and diminished support for the educators who dedicate themselves tirelessly to our children every day. I urge you to see this budget not as an expense, but as an investment, one that pays dividends in the form of well-prepared, well-rounded, and highly capable students who will contribute to our community and beyond. Please fully fund the Board of Education's proposed budget. Our students, our families, and our town's future depend on it. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you for your service to our town and your time in this process. I particularly value being able to bring my kids on a Saturday to see this live and in person. It's an important way to show them that public input is important. My name is Alyssa Kent. I live at 186 White Oak Road. I'm here with my daughter Nora, my youngest, who is a second grader at Stratfield Elementary. I have two other children in the school system as well. I'm a 17-year resident of this town. I moved here when I was 26. Long before I thought about children, but we knew that schools were one of the important things that would be part of our future and part of the reason we chose Fairfield over other towns. What I didn't know when I was 26 or 27 or even 30 as a young mom was to show up at these things, right? I didn't realize that the budget cuts that happened back then reduced art, reduced modified sports, reduced a lot of things that I think my kids could be benefiting from. So I'm here today to talk for my kids, but more importantly, for the people that aren't here, the people that have moved to our town upon, the recommendation of their realtors for great schools, the niche ratings, the idea that they can raise their kids here with all the things that they think they value in their public schools. So while I encourage you to fully fund this budget so that Nora can have Spanish, and I don't have to hear my friend Marta come next year to talk about her love of Spanish and the fact that she wants to continue to teach our elementary school kids. I'm really here for those families that have infants at home right now that don't even realize this is happening. So thank you. I appreciate your consideration and your service to our town. You have a lot of hard decisions to make, and appreciate the opportunity.
Good morning. My name is Nina Fatahi, and I'm a resident of 88 Overhill Road. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to an overwhelming, unpopular plan to cut the budget. Actually, sorry, to not fully fund the budget. As you can see, from what I understand, last year there were no people here when you did host this last year, and I can't count how many people are here today, but I think that the response is overwhelming. And I'm asking you, in which I also sent a letter, to fully fund the BOE budget. They've already cut so much, and this is a bare bones budget. One thing, I mean, people have mentioned so many important things, talking about our children, talking about the quality of education in our district, the fact that that's what drives property values, which affects all of us today and in the future. But one thing I wanted to remind the Board of Finance, I'm not sure which of you were on the Board of Finance when the plans for the Mill Hill School were created. From what I understand, the school that my daughter attends is obviously, as you know, very overcrowded. There's no space. From what I understand, the Board of Finance had agreed to spend $1 million extra, they would have had the school that the town needs. Because of that, we have overcrowding, and you can't just create a bigger school. There's no land. That's another $60 million cost that it's clear that we don't have. So I think what's really important is to not be short-sighted. $1 million might have seemed like a lot of money 6, 7 years ago when the discussions were happening, and today we see how much more that's going to cost us. So please understand that once we cut these amazing programs that all of our children deserve, we're not getting them back. And as a result, the reputation of Fairfield is severely going to suffer. People are going to talk. They're going to know that this isn't the town to go if you want a high quality education for your children. Thank you so much for your time. And I'm looking forward to getting the news that you're going to fully fund the education budget.
Hi, Board of Finance. Thank you for your time. My name is Todd Sample. I have 2 children in the school district. I have an elementary school child at Stratfield and a middle school child at Tomlinson. Thank you all for the Board of Ed and all your time. In a world of taking, it's really nice to receive your gifts of your time. And thank you all parents and fellow Fairfieldians. I appreciate all of you all. I'll just make this really simple. I support a full budget. We moved here from Brooklyn. We were there for 20 years. We moved here because of the schools. We shopped around like a similar other parent, and we chose you all, and we are so happy here. We love it. Our children have thrived because of the strong education system that's here, because of all the teachers and all the programs that you have here. So I support a full budget. I wish there was more in there, but that's great. But I definitely support the full budget, and I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
First of all, thank you. It's obvious what active listeners you're all being today, and that actually means more than anything. It's my first meeting, as a lot of people have said. I'm Kelly Briggs, relatively new to Fairfield, a COVID transplant from Los Angeles with my family. I have a 3rd grader at Burr. We've been here for 5 years, and it has been the most incredible experience for us. I will say, however, I am a product of an international education. I was raised abroad. My husband grew up abroad. We are both really, really grateful to be here, but extraordinarily pained when we hear about programs that are language skills, things that allow our children to grow with STEM, and things that make them better global citizens, as everyone has said today. So you have the data, you have the statistics. Is this meeting allowed to be interactive? How many of you currently have children in the public school system in Fairfield, or have ever had a child go through this public school system?
All of us, pretty much.
Okay, fantastic. So I missed that part, sorry. But that's fantastic. I would urge you then, knowing that, please do the right thing. This should not even be a discussion or a choice. Fully fund the budget. There really should be no other option. Thank you for your time today.
Let's see. Can you guys, oh yeah, you can hear me. Great. Hi, everybody. My name is Fatima Teos and I live at 286 Roseville Terrace. Good morning, members of the Board of Finance and everyone here today. I'm a Fairfield resident, PTA president, and most importantly, a proud mom of 3 young boys who'll grow up in our schools. I wasn't sure I would speak again today because I already made public comment last week. And as you know, I'm not very comfortable with it. But aside from that, I've truthfully been holding back tears since I walked into the auditorium
because this is what we're seeing right now. It's everything we've been hoping for. Last year at this very meeting, from my understanding, there were 0 parents here, 0. Today, this room is filled with parents, families, educators, and students who have shown up to stand together for our schools. And I want to pause for a moment, not to make another argument and not to throw more numbers at you, but simply to say thank you. Thank you to every family who took time out of their Saturday to be here. Thank you to my fellow PTA leaders who have worked tirelessly behind the scenes and out front to advocate not just for their own children or their own schools, but every child in Fairfield. And thank you to the Board of Finance for creating this space to allow us to be heard. This moment reminds me why I fell in love with Fairfield in the first place, because in this town, when something matters, from what I've seen, we show up. We show up for our kids, we show up for our teachers, we show up for our neighbors, and we show up for each other. This budget has been long and at times very exhausting, as I'm sure much more for you guys. But what it has also done is bring us together as a community. It's reminded us that when we work together, when we lift each other up, when we use our voices, not alone, but together, we can make an impact. So yes, I'm here today to once again ask you to fully fund the Board of Ed budget. But most importantly, I'm here to remind you that Fairfield is stronger when we stand together. And today, you don't have to just take my word for it. We can all just look around and see that. This is what a community looks like. It's what love for our schools look like and what our kids deserve. So I respectfully ask not only the Board of Finance, but all of our town leadership and elected officials across the board to work together with us, to collaborate, to lean on the very spirit of this community you see here today, because Fairfield is always stronger when we're together. Thank you.
Good morning, Board of Finance. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here today. My name is Alex Morrow. I live at 140 Sherwood Farm Road, and my kids currently go to Holland Hill Elementary. We just moved. I've lived in 5 towns across Connecticut growing up, from the New York border to the state capital. My husband and I both went to Fairfield University at different times, and it is because of this town's incredible education that we have been able to raise our 2 kids here and also own 5 homes across school districts in this town. We've been able to build this opportunity as a result of all the resources given here. And I would just like to argue today to please fully fund this budget. I believe, as everyone does here, that our kids are such a vital part of what we have to offer and what our town will grow to become. Sorry, I'm just orienting myself. I can confidently say that after all my experiences in this state, that Fairfield stands apart. It not only welcomes difference, but it builds a system of community around it. And it's why my husband and I chose to raise our children here. Fairfield, at its best, I believe, reflects the promise of this country, which is that when we align our efforts and our resources, we create communities that support creativity, critical thinking, and a values-driven upbringing for our kids. I think this is something that we can all agree we are lacking in as a society. I personally see the strength of that community every day. The families at the school we attend, Holland Hill, represent a wide range of cultures, professionals, and income levels. Most are dual income households doing everything they can to support their children's growth and learning. Moreover, we are a community of friends, parents, and kids alike across all age groups and experiences. I've never seen anything like it, and it's why I made a last-minute decision last year to step in and help run the PTA at Holland Hill with my co-president Fatima, who you just heard from. Cuts to programs like STEAM, Spanish, and transportation directly threaten this balance. When we reduce access to these core offerings, we disproportionately impact families who rely on the public school system to provide enrichment, exploration, and access to these opportunities. But they don't just remove programs, they remove possibilities. STEAM fosters the problem-solving and collaborative skills that every employer in the 21st century is looking for, and that we as a nation need to garner and nourish more than ever. Spanish introduces students to different cultures and worldviews, expanding their empathy and communication skills in a divided world. And reliable transportation is not a luxury, it's a lifeline. Without it, many working families cannot ensure their children's full participation in their educational experience or their own immersion in their professional experience, which make us all valuable contributors to this town's economy and community. I believe personally that nationally, we've pushed creative and emotional development into the margins for far too long. We often blame the internet or screen time for our children's challenges, but those are just tools. The deeper problem is that we've underinvested in the essential experiences that increase patience, grit, and problem solving. I just believe that these programs cultivate these skills and that more than ever, we need to invest in humanity. Thank you so much, and thank you for your service. We really appreciate it.
Hello. My name is Karen Haig, and I've lived at 30 Rutland Avenue since 1987. I'd like to talk to you about the Rooster River. During the last administration, plans were finally in place to address the Rooster River flooding. Under the current administration, however, funds were diverted to sidewalks and paving, including bluestone sidewalks in Southport. When is this project going to get back on track? Step one of this project needs to be the cleanup of the debris. Seems to be easily attainable, yet overlooked for decades. It affects hundreds of properties. Please restore this fund and project. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Grace Gonzalez Peck, and I am a student at Osborne Hill Elementary School. And this is my mom, Signy Peck.
Yes, Grace is a fourth grader at Osborne Hill. Thank you for your time. I'm advocating for the full budget for the education spending. We moved last year to 79 Bel Air Lane. We'd been in Fairfield for about 15 years before renting. Grace's father, it came from Cuba, and actually one of her favorite Spanish teachers when she was at Riverfield spoke earlier, Mrs. Momblacutu, and she's loved the Spanish program. It's been wonderful for her. She actually is adept with languages, and it's also helped her feel really included in the community. I'm also a full-time faculty member at the Yale Child Study Center, and I'm fully aware of the importance of full funding for education budgets. And in the realm of special education, having funding early, we all know early intervention is the key, and the lack of funding in that respect can lead to far greater expenses down the road if special needs aren't addressed earlier on. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for your time. My name is Catherine Wenzel, and I live at 140 Sherwood Drive in Southport. I have a daughter. This is Madeline, who is in kindergarten at Mill Hill. And I also have a 3-year-old, Margot, who will be there in a few years. I'm also the kindergarten Daisy Troop co-leader at Mill Hill. We've heard so many wonderful speeches this morning, and I agree with everything that has been said in favor of fully funding the budget. We too live here for the schools. I grew up in Northern California, and my husband grew up here in Fairfield. The reason we live here and not in my pristine mountain town in Northern California near my family is because we want our daughters to have the very best education possible. Our experience so far has been really great, but I'm already sort of blown away in my short time in elementary school that in a town known for high quality public schools, how stretched our schools kind of seem to be. Our school has to hold supply drives for Clorox wipes and scissors, and teachers create Amazon wish lists because they don't have what they need for their classrooms, which I'm obviously so happy to help with. And then there are elementary schools that are in massive need of renovation with air quality concerns that have to close on the warm days in September because they don't have air conditioning. I don't really understand how schools can continue to function with such a significant cut. So I encourage you to invest where it matters most, and that is in our children and our schools.
Hi, my name is Madeline, and I'm from Mill Hill Elementary School. I really want my school to be safe, and I don't want it to change.
Hi, everyone. Thank you again for all of your time and for being here with us today and hearing all of these important stories as to why we think you need to continue to fully fund the public education budget here in Fairfield. My name is Bree Teteska. I live at 181 Margemere Drive. I have a third grader at Osborne Hill and 2 incoming twin kindergartners who will also go to OHS in the fall. Like a lot of the other folks who've spoken here already today, I moved to Fairfield for the quality of the public education from New York City. I am a product myself of public education system, and I think it is not only the most important investment that we can make as a town, but as a country. I think on a national level, it is the most important thing for the future of all of us. I'll echo a lot of what's already been said here, but wanted to add a couple of things that I think are also really important for you guys to think about. So 2 of the considerations for budget cuts are 2 of the most critical programs for preparing our kids for a successful future in this world. In total, STEM supports 2/3 of US jobs, which is like 69%. 69% of US GDP and $2.3 trillion in annual federal tax revenue. On average, STEM jobs tend to pay significantly more than non-STEM occupations, with the median annual wage for STEM occupations being around 101,000 versus like 50 for non-STEM jobs. So tell me, why would we cut those programs and why would we set our kids up for failure in a rapidly changing world? Why would we put them in that position? And why wouldn't we prioritize investing enough in them to make them competitive with their other peers and other school systems? I'd like you to be able to answer that question if you ultimately make the decision to make those cuts. By 2050, a significant portion of jobs, potentially 75%, will be related to STEM fields. I know a lot of us out here are probably concerned with our jobs being replaced by AI. That's just a small part of the STEM world that we're entering into, that we've been entering into and continue to progress toward. There are other emerging areas like environmental engineering, biotech, cybersecurity is a huge thing in our world right now, and other soft skills that you also gain in STEM, like critical thinking and problem solving, is an important part of the curriculum. Switching over to Spanish, which I know is also on the chopping block, by 2050, projections suggest that the United States could become the world's largest Spanish-speaking country, with an estimated 138 million Spanish speakers. Spanish-speaking companies and individuals will have an incredible advantage in the future. The world is becoming more diverse, more technologically inclined, and we need to make sure that our children are not the ones that are left behind. Please fully fund the education budget. There have to be other areas where we can make the necessary cuts without threatening our children and their futures. Thank you.
Good morning, Frank Sahagian, 20 Chelsea Street. I too would like to thank you for all that you do and giving us the opportunity to comment here today. I'm a retired social studies teacher from Fairfield Woods and have been a resident of Fairfield now for more than 40 years. And being retired, I had the luxury, if you want to call it that, to listen and watch the 4 hours of presentation of Mr. Testani and Mr. Peterson and Mrs. Ligorius. And I applaud you for your probing questions. And I think it's fair to say that there wasn't much discovered, including the unanswered questions and their respective answers, that will have any significant impact on the $1.95 million shortfall. Previously, I served on the last teacher's contract negotiating committee, so I'm well aware of how uncompetitive Fairfield has been prior to this last negotiation. And after seeing that a 10% turnover rate was not sustainable for the quality of education our kids deserve, finally, a contract was agreed upon, with representation from this board, I might add, who included, that would help us to become more competitive. Hopefully, we'll now slow down the turnover and not continue to train new teachers only to find 5 to 7 years later, they leave the district where they can make 20% more in neighboring districts. And there were also a good number of teachers who experienced pay freezes in their tenure with the district. First, let's consider the $2.1 million already cut by the BOE, staff, technology, world language, maintenance. Then consider the fixed costs, which include contractual obligations, along with higher utility costs, virtually guaranteed with air conditioning added 3 schools, additional healthcare costs that compare highly unfavorably to where we were last year, an expired transportation contract resulting in unavoidable, considerably higher busing costs, the need to budget more for maintenance to prevent Mr. Testani from coming to this board next year, asking for more money, a $2 million unfavorable swing in excess cost funding for special education, where we now have close to 20% of our kids requiring special ed services. It's painfully clear that the $1.95 million, if not restored, that programs and additional staff will need to be cut. There is now only meat left on the bone. To acknowledge, which this board has, that teachers will now be getting paid what they rightfully deserve. To couple that with not funding what the district needs to provide the quality education our kids deserve would be at the very least illogical, and dare I say it, irresponsible and hypocritical. As a long-term resident, former educator, and now a senior, from all these perspectives, I urge you to restore the $1.95 million. At this point in time, only this board has the ability, the responsibility, and the power to do so. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Lauren Efren from 241 Burr Street. I am Dwight's PTA co-president, the Board of Ed rep for RLMS and PTAC rep for both schools. One thing that has struck me as I've listened to all the public comments here today is the sheer volume, the number of students, Girl Scout leaders, parents, educators, our chair of the Board of Education, and other members who are here in the audience. You've heard, and I've been trying to keep count, over 45 unique voices today. At the last Board of Finance meeting, you heard 11 impassioned members of the public. That's over 50. That's pretty remarkable. The reason why we're all here today is because the Board of Selectmen had proposed a budget cut for our Board of Education budget. And unfortunately, due to the timing of their public meeting, which was midweek at 10 a.m., and I will tell you, because I was the only one who was able to stay and make a public comment. One public comment that our Board of Selectmen heard. You guys have endured a lot today, and I'm sure you're all wondering how many more you have to listen to. I hope you understand these are your constituents. These are the people who elected you, who believe in you, and who know that you can right this wrong. In fact, you're the only board that can. You've heard all the impassioned pleas. I cannot say it any better than everyone who has preceded me at this lectern has said. Please consider each of your votes your own. It's not just the town that is looking to you. This is across the state. There are more than just our residents that are struggling to put food on the table, to keep their houses warm. But education is a basic right that we all share. Please don't take that away from them. Thank you for your service.
Good morning. My name is Liz Esma. I live at 160 Fairfield Woods Road. I'm currently serving on the RTM representing District 4, and having served on this body, I just want to thank you for your service. I know how challenging and critical your work is. I just wanted to address the comment about Rooster River and just assure the person who came up and members of the public listening, no funds were diverted from that project. ARPA funds had very specific requirements for the timing of encumbering funds and spending funds. The timing did not allow for the ARPA money dedicated to Rooster River to be devoted to that project, so it has been bonded. The Rooster River project is very much on track. So I just want to assure members of the public, especially in my district where personally I have been affected by the flooding as well as many of my constituents. The other thing I want to say is how gratifying it is to see such a groundswell of support for education in this town. And I hope every person in this room echoes that to the administration in Washington that is devastatingly canceling and literally disbanding the Department of Education. It is an absolute outrage. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Sharon Pistilli. I am on the RTM in District 5, and this microphone is very unfortunate. Yeah, so I just wanted to thank you for being here today to the Board of Finance. I know there are many long hours that are involved in the budget hearings and careful analysis, and I also wanted to say thank you to the people who have come out to advocate. Your job as citizen is the most important job in this town and in our democracy, so you should be applauded for that. We're in a difficult spot with a small increase in the grand list and necessary increases on the BOE side, with much of the increases being due to wages, which we definitely needed to bring into competitive range, and then also increases in healthcare that have outpaced inflation, and then also increases in special ed, which are necessary. We have to do our best to balance the needs of those with fixed incomes who are on Social Security, which is now threatened by the federal government, and then also the parents and children who are threatened by cuts to the Department of Education. As you may know, I chair the Senior and Disabled Tax Relief Subcommittee of the RTM, and there are families in this town who are really in need, and for whom a tax increase would be a tremendous burden for them to bear. And so as you consider the budget in its final stages, we do have to balance the advocacy for the parents and children who are in this town for the quality of the education. Both of my kids graduated from Fairfield Public Schools, and I'm tremendously proud and a staunch advocate of education. So to balance, the needs of the parents and children who rely on us to educate their children, and also as best we can to recognize those for whom a tax increase would be a tremendous burden on them. And I thank you for all of your attention as you go through your final analysis.
Good morning. My name is Kristen O'Neill. I live at 272 Home Fair Drive. I am also serving on the RTM in District 5, and I have two children that go to Jennings Elementary School, and I am Jennings Elementary School's PTA Board of Ed rep. I want to echo some of the things that Mrs. Pistilli just mentioned. I appreciate the Board of Finance being here this morning and listening to everybody's comments. I truly appreciate all of our parents, educators, and members of the public who took time out of their morning to advocate for the Board of Education's budget. My two children both receive special education services from the Fairfield Public Schools, and I can honestly say those services have changed their lives for the better. So I completely understand the needs of the Board of Education and the schools. I also understand from knocking on doors as I was campaigning for other elected officials in this town, that affordability is something that is on everybody's mind. And I heard time and time again, knocking on constituents' doors, that they are worried if taxes increase, that they may not be able to afford their homes in the future. So I don't have an answer to this, but I just wanted to say that I appreciate you, and I just urge you to take this vote seriously, and I know you will. Thank you.
Morning. Greg Bosch, 470 Jackman. If you're an accountant, the town budget is about numbers. If you're a politician, it's about a narrative. The story of Fairfield's budget began with a press release. The first selectman wrote, "Despite cost inflations and wage increases, the budget fully funds the services residents expect and deserve." This morning, our schools remain 1.95 million short. This has forced the BOE to preemptively discuss cuts to STEAM, Spanish, art, and busing. You've heard about it all morning long. But the narrative doesn't match the facts. Some claim that we can't fund schools because of housing and food insecurity. Affordability and education must both be solved together. That is Fairfield's value proposition among our neighboring towns. What has been done to create workforce housing and senior housing in Fairfield? Not enough. And now that failure is being used to justify cuts to education programs. Given this narrative, you can imagine my surprise at the scrutiny of our town's social workers and their means of supporting residents. No parent here has ever advocated for our schools at the expense of empty refrigerators or cold homes. Fairfield PTAs are among Operation Hope's biggest supporters. We can and should do more as parents as well. 2 weeks ago, leaders from 52 towns across the state penned a letter to Governor Lamont. They write, "Teacher salaries, student support, facilities, and transportation costs have all gone up. Who's been picking up the bill?" They rhetorically ask. Property taxpayers and municipalities. That sounds a lot like Fairfield, but Fairfield didn't sign the letter. I appreciate that our schools will receive an additional $465,000 in excess cost grant funding from the state, but we should be receiving $1.5 million. Meanwhile, state insurance plans have sent bills for an extra $880,000 and $300,000 in public benefit charges have been added to our school buildings' electric bills. It's hard to keep cuts in funding from touching the classroom when reimbursements fall and new obligations come from everywhere. Fairfield's $380 million budget represents lots of choices. The conversation shouldn't be education versus social services. I reject this narrative, and I think parents here tonight have written a new one. Fairfield stands behind education and affordability. The answer must include senior tax relief, stronger social services, and pushing the state to fully fund its obligations. So I'll ask one last time. Please work with your colleagues and across the aisle on all of these concerns. Please fully fund the Board of Education budget and ensure our neighbors that need help receive it. Thank you for your service to the town of Fairfield.
Good morning. This is Jimmy Oliveri. I'm at 157 Bennett Street. It's going to be hard to top what the gentleman before me just said, but just want to show my support for the schools and restoring the funding. You know, I look at the school as not so much more like a glue for the community. When I want to meet up with friends and play basketball or play tennis, when my wife wants to take my daughter out to play pickleball. First place we think of is Fairfield Woods Middle School. So I urge you guys to restore the funding and keep it going with the educations. Thank you.
This is the worst part. They make you sign up first. And I promised Sharon I'd put her name too because she forgot. My name is Megan McLeod. I live at 2815 Reading Road in Fairfield. I am a representative on RTM District 2. Very, very grateful for all of the service you all put in. I know you are up many late hours on these meetings and it does not go unnoticed by your constituents. So first of all, thank you so much. In full disclosure, I was not planning on speaking today. Obviously, I've spoken a lot about things in the budget. I've got a lot to say about it. I think it's filled with a lot of errors, a lot of padding, and a lot of things that I've already spoken about at RTM. But one thing I did not get a chance to speak about was the importance of the show of support here to fund our Board of Education budget. I'm the granddaughter of a special ed teacher from the Bronx, New York. My grandmother commuted every day for 30 years from a wealthy suburb in Westchester County all the way to PS 111 in Bronx, New York, because she knew the importance of our future was founded on sustaining the education and our future leaders. It cannot be evidenced enough how many parents have already spoken to the fact that last year at this meeting, I think there were 3 people in attendance. I counted over 100, but more importantly, today I counted over 30 young children. My favorite might have been the young 3-year-old who came with her own protest sign, which I think was just such a testament to what we're here for today. There are so many places that I could suggest that we focus on our budget and cutting. I have a lot to say about the parking authority and the revenue shift. I've got a lot to say about the salaries. Do not consider cutting the Board of Ed proposed budget. If we start looking into where we can cut what is already a slim margin for the future leaders, we are setting ourselves up to fail. What might be a seemingly irrelevant fact is that I work at the city of Bridgeport. Attorney Matola, I'm looking at you too. And we both know that every other week I sit through, which everybody's seen in the news, these horrific layoffs, these horrific potential state takeovers in a Board of Education. And you know how that all began? Many may say it was cycles of systemic failure that was not taken, but it started, if you go to any of these auditoriums about 5 years ago in a Bridgeport high school, it looked like this. You had parents having to come out and say, my kid can't survive without a paraprofessional. My kid can't survive without access to special education programs. They already have an IEP, they have a PPT. This is the beginning of what a horrible future could look like if we start to look at the Board of Education for cuts. There are many other places in this budget that we should be looking at. Like I said, padded salaries, moving departments, all different things. Please do not begin by starting at the education level. There was a woman here earlier who spoke to the fact that she was here for the people maybe 5 or 6 years before they had children, who didn't know that they had to show up to these meetings. I'm one of them. I don't have children in the school system. I moved here 5 years ago, and we did it very prematurely, knowing we wanted our children to be in the school system in public schools in Fairfield. You have to look down the road. What we are considering doing now is going to have lifelong effects on these children. We don't get that back. When you miss that opportunity for children in their young developmental years, that is something that costs so much more on society to repair if it's not done right the first time. Please fund this Board of Education budget, and please, I urge you all, do the diligence. I know you've been doing it the late hours to look to other places in the budget to find the cuts, but please do not start with the Board of Education. Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Lisa Alberts. I live at 48 South Street. I have 2 kids currently in the Fairfield Public School system. I'm a former PTA president, and I am the current VP of Sustainability for PTAC. When we moved here in 2016, we weren't sure if we would stay. My son was 3 years old, and he didn't speak one single word. He attended our ECC program in the back of this school, and then he moved on to receive services at Mill Hill. In 3rd grade, he graduated from all of his services. He probably talks more than anyone else in our household now. And not only that, but anyone who knows Mason would probably be shocked to know that he ever had help with speech. This is a testament to how great our school systems are. This is one of the many reasons why we now have a house here and we're staying. I spent a lot of time volunteering in every single school. We're so fortunate to have the privilege to be here. Our staff members are truly the best, and I would love to continue to support them. Our children are the future. Please continue to invest in them and help restore the 1.95 million to our budget. Thank you.
Thank you again for being here. We really appreciate the input and the advocacy. Before we wrap up, I just want to give my colleagues a chance to say a few words and speak back to the community, and then we'll all hopefully go and enjoy this beautiful day. Mr. Myers, do you want to start?
Is this on? Good morning. At least I think it's still morning. Okay. So my name is Jim Myers. This is my first year on the Board of Finance. My wife and I are lifelong residents of the town of Fairfield. And my wife is a teacher. She's been a teacher for over 25 years at Ludlow and Woods Middle School. So when I looked at the Board of Ed budget this year, I first went to the total page and I said, what's the increase? What's the percentage? And when I saw that it was a $14.7 million increase and 6.7% increase, my first reaction was, wow, that's a lot. You know, there's got to be something that can be cut out of this. And, you know, so we went through the meetings with the superintendent, the Board of Ed chair, and the Board of Ed chief financial officer. And like somebody said, there's not a lot in here. There's not a lot of fat. There's not a lot of things that I think we can cut, unfortunately. I think there's a lot of things that are being kind of handed to them that we have to fund. Especially, obviously, you can imagine I'm going to be an advocate for the teachers and the salaries and the lane changes, all things that were promised to them contractually and things that we need to do to be competitive. You know, the teachers are everything to the school system. So I feel very, very strongly about that. And then, you know, if I really look at, and the other thing I want to say too, is that all of the emails that we have received from you, the town, that have been very supportive of the Board of Ed. I've read them all. We've all read them all. They've been very impactful. Obviously today, the same. Really appreciate all that you do. You have done and said to advocate for the Board of Ed budget. Well, moving to the town side, you know, there's a lot of work that we're going to need to do as a board on the town side. You know, this budget had, you know, just kind of what was handed to us. We didn't have a budget director this year for a good part of the year. We had an interim CFO. We're very lucky to now have a full-time CFO. But, you know, Tom didn't join us until January, and I think that impacted the budget that we received from the town in terms of just being organized and not being organized. There are a lot of reorganizations on the town side that are very costly. We're adding positions. So we're going to need to look at all those things and try and balance. You know, if we can't cut the Board of Ed, we're going to have to find something in the town. And, you know, there's also reserves that this town relies on. And we hold on to those reserves for uncertainties when things don't go the way they should in terms of investment income, way things don't go in terms of medical costs. And obviously we have a fill pile that we still have to take care of. So those are the things that we're going to need to be thoughtful about as a board. And then finally, I do think I've heard from other people in this today that there are a lot of risks and concerns on the town side from the standpoint of revenue that we're counting on, the speed cameras, the parking authority. You could say possibly the investment income assumptions in a time when, you know, we're going to probably see decreasing interest rates. So I will say, just if that sounded depressing, I want to say that on the positive side, this is a very fantastic board. I am honored to be on this board and to be working with all of the people that are on this board. A lot of experience, And we work very well together, and I am very confident that we will come together and agree on a budget that makes sense. So thank you very much.
I can switch back and forth. Okay, thank you, Mr. Myers. Mr. Stark, do you want to go next?
Caught me by surprise there.
Figure I'll go back and forth.
I'm Kevin Stark. I live on Stratfield Road. I always like when people speak about things other than education. And so I want to respond to the statements that were made. Ms. Zezima already answered the question on the Rooster River, which flows through my backyard. So I am on that like white on rice here on the Board of Finance. And I think that Ms. Kupchik got the ball rolling in a great way on that. And I think Mr. Gerber is continuing that work. The point on the extra police is a sound one. The counter argument is that property theft, property crimes are up in the past few years. So I'm maintaining an open mind on that issue. And then the other non-education point that was raised was about investment income. Well, you can't run a $200 million cash balance and not assume that it's going to throw off about 8 million in income every year. And we can't, because if we don't assume that, what happens is the excess income becomes a budget surplus. And that budget surplus gets put in the general fund from which it will never see the light of day. And that just increases people's taxes for no reason. On to the education budget. My son goes to Ward. He's a sophomore there. I am keeping an open mind until the vote there too. And I thank you for helping shape our views. You elected us because we can do math and we can make hard decisions. Budgets have run at a cumulative increase, including this one, of 20% in the past 5 years. Inflation has run at 25% cumulatively. The mill rate will have gone up by 6.1% cumulatively in 5 years. So we are definitely underspending the economy. In real terms, spending is down. And you're all here advocating for a bigger education budget. So on the other hand, from a budgeting perspective, 1.9 million dollars is only a 0.6% reduction in the overall budget. And it is very hard to see that as a calamity. We had a similar situation 3 years ago, and there were 100 people here speaking on behalf of the education budget. The past 2 years, as some of you noted, nobody came to this meeting. There's no Lorax speaking for the sewers, I guess. The situation is a little different now than it was 3 years ago when we restored that requested reduction to the increase. Notice I don't call it a cut. It's a reduction of the increase. What's different? We have a capital spending budget for the schools over the next 10 years of $240 million. That includes a new Dwight School, which will cost something like $75 or $80 million. It includes air conditioning, which is already in process and is another $75 million, and then another 80 million of other. That alone produces a 2.6% annual increase in taxes, or in the budget, sorry. Then you look to the town side, including the education budget, total capital spending is $586 million over the next 10 years. That drives a 6.3% increase in debt service over the next 10 years annually. Existing debt service is already 6% of the budget. We maintain a guardrail of not driving debt service to more than 10% of the total budget. And you can see where the math is potentially not going to work. Now, that's just a guardrail. It's not the Bible. It's not gospel, but it's something we do try to live by. Because, I mean, a lot of you have said that you moved here because of the schools, but let's face it, you, and I think Mr. Bosch pointed this out, we move here not only because of the schools. If it were just that, we could move to Greenwich or Darien or Westport. It's the schools and it's the affordability. And, you know, keeping property taxes in check is part of the affordability equation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stark. Ms. Ruggiero?
Hi, Amy Ruggiero. This is my second year on the Board of Finance. I am struggling this year with the budget. I think that we knew that the Board of Ed was going to have increases, and we had agreed to a much needed teacher salary increase. There's been health increases, transportation increases, substitute costs, special education, a lot of things that we knew were coming. And based on that, I think that we needed to make some cuts or make some tough decisions on the town side. And I think the town, on the town side, there are a lot of increases that I don't agree with, and a lot of accounting changes that I don't agree with either. We're using reserves, we're taking recognition of revenue that we haven't even implemented the materials to do that. Capitalizing employee costs, taking and seizing control of a parking authority, not passing a decrease to taxpayers on auto tax, and capitalizing expenses that are usually part of a budget, an operating budget. So I think there's a lot of concerns. Obviously, there's a lot of people that have been on this board a lot longer than I, and I have the utmost respect for all of the members of this board, and I am going into Wednesday. I think there's a lot to talk about, and it's going to be a big challenge this year. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ruggiero. Mr. Penley?
Yeah, thank you. I'm Shane Penley. This is also my second year on the Board of Finance, and like Mr. Ruggiero just said, this is a difficult budget. This is a lot different from last year. Last year, what kind of stuck out to me was that, you know, when you make cuts to certain departments, they can be kind of a disproportionate impact, a kind of asymmetric impact on the town or the Board of Ed versus the value that the residents are getting. You take off $200,000 from a little department, that's a big deal. Staff, it's very hard to recover from. And the actual savings that a taxpayer gets are pretty minimal. This year's a little bit different because we've had a tremendous increase in cost. We've had no growth in our grant list. It's a much more challenging budget. I moved here, like almost everyone here said, for the schools, but the affordability. It's a really good point that Mr. Stark made. I moved up from New Orleans. We were looking all around. My in-laws are in Greenwich. Could have moved to Greenwich. Not affordable. Moved to Fairfield. Schools and affordability. That's the balancing act that we have to do here. That's the needle to thread. So let me give you some comments on education. I have two kids in public schools. I have a kindergartner and a fourth grader. There is not a single priority bigger to me than education. And I wish that as a town, we were having a real conversation about education, but we're not. We're not. Because there's not anybody on this board, there's not anyone on the Board of Education, and I dare say the superintendent doesn't believe that these specials are going to get cut. They're not going to get cut. They were never going to get cut. But that's the conversation that has been forced on all of you to bring you out here, to make you worry that those vital programs are going to be cut. They're not going to be cut. I'm not going to vote for a budget that cuts them. The question we should be having is there room in our education budget to make other cuts that don't impact the priorities? Because ultimately budgeting in a time like this is about priorities. You can't make a budget and say, I want everything. It doesn't work that way. It can't work that way. Or very soon we will all be priced out of town. So I really appreciate all the emails you've got. I've read every single one. I've spoken to a lot of you people. I've really enjoyed hearing what you said today, and I'm so heartened by the advocacy. I love that there's people who come out and care enough to do this. But I wish we were having a different conversation. I wish we were having a more nuanced conversation. Because when we start having those conversations, that's when this town's going to succeed. not when we're pitting boards against each other, not when we're fear mongering. That's politics. It's not policy. On the town side, the town is tricky. They've had fixed costs that have gone up as well, big time. I think there's a few guardrails that this board and frankly every board should be thinking about in terms of the budget. Mr. Stark mentioned an important one, which is keeping our cost and our debt service relative to our budget within a certain range. That affects our credit rating. That affects the cost of financing capital projects going forward. Another guardrail or another North Star we can look to is what are the costs rising? Or what is the rate of inflation nationally? Year over year, it's been running about 2.8% the last 12 months. Okay, so that can be a guiding principle for us. The last thing I'll say is any municipality should endeavor not to overtax its citizens. Okay, and I view surpluses as overtaxing citizens. So, our last meeting, we talked a lot about investment income, and we're still trying to figure out where we're at there because historically this town has under budgeted investment income and we end up with a surplus. Nobody should want that. So again, I just want to thank you. Ultimately, this budget needs to reflect the priorities of the residents. It's your town. And I just want to thank you again for all the advocacy, all the emails, and for so many people coming out today. Thank you. Reach out if you have more questions.
Thank you. Mr. Curley, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you all for coming out today. I agree with my colleagues. It's great to see so many people out supporting or asking us to support what's important to you. And also thank you all for your emails. As it's been said, we read them all. They do make a difference. Hearing all of this testimony today, it does make a difference. I don't want to repeat a lot of what my colleagues said, but I do want to just share a little bit about my perspective on a few things. This is my fourth budget cycle on this board. I've been an advocate, active in town volunteering for decades, and this is a very tough budget. As a candidate, I ran as a pro-education candidate for each of the last 3 years. I have supported restoration of any proposed reductions in the Board of Education budget, and my inclination is to follow that, and because I understand how important it is to this town, not just to the students, but to the community. Education is core. And as someone my wife and I moved here 30 years ago, roughly, and had 2 boys go through the public school system. So I understand firsthand how important funding education is. They got an incredible education, and we're thankful for it. And for those who don't have children in the school system, it adds to property values. It's part of the community, right? So it affects everybody. But by the same token, I've also been chair of our Senior and Disabled Tax Relief Committee, and I understand the importance of not letting taxes go up too much. And for me, as my colleague mentioned, Mr. Penley mentioned, the barometer is the inflation rate. When I look at the proposed increase for the Board of Ed this year was, a little over 6% year over year. And the Board of Education budget, or the education budget, is 2/3 of the overall budget. So it's really hard for the administration to find room when they're half the size to make room for the education budget. And I actually want to I know that my colleagues had mentioned that there are some items on the town side that require scrutiny, whether it's the parking authority, whether it's the investment income, some of the reserves that we've built up from prior year surpluses. How does the town use those in a way that helps support the education budget so that they can get the fully funded or near fully funded budget? It's a tough year if the education side which is 2/3 of the budget, has a 6% increase, it's really hard for the town to make the cuts, to make room for that and still keep taxes down. So as I'm sure you all can appreciate, this is a bit of a threading the needle exercise this year, tougher than the last 3 years, for sure. But I am confident in the quality of my colleagues on this board. We do work well together. I expect that we're going to have some continued deliberation over the next couple of days before we vote on Wednesday. But I do want to thank everyone again. I counted 50 plus comments here. Overwhelmingly, your advocacy matters, and I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Curley. Mr. Matola?
Thank you all for coming out. I'm John Matola, Vice Chair of this Board of Finance. I have a ton of things I could say right now. I guess what I want to start with is I think everyone needs to take a real big, deep breath and relax a little bit. What I'm more disappointed in this year is it's been kind of an us against them situation which has to stop. It's never been that way. It should never be that way. I've been around a long time. I was on the Board of Education. I was a chair of the Board of Education. I support education very strongly. I've seen meetings like this where there's 3 people here and we're out in about 20 minutes, and other years like tonight or this morning where we're here for 2 hours because everyone's extremely fearful that, the education budget's going to be cut and it's all going to go to hell. But it's not. So we just need to relax and calm down and need to work together as one town, because that's how we succeed. And that's traditionally how it's happened over the years. So I just want to stress that. I also want to stress that the education budget, we don't, it doesn't work in a silo, right? You're part of the town and all of that has to be considered. I guess what I would say is a couple of things. On the town side, I don't see $2 million in cuts that would make up for a $1.9 million deficit on the Board of Education side. I don't see where that's going to come. So I want to make that clear that certainly the town budget does have some revenue expectations built into it that we as a board are strongly looking at to make sure that they're as accurate as possible. And we're going to continue to look at that. We're also going to continue to get some more information over the next couple of days before we make our decision with respect on how we vote. I do trust this board. I can tell you one thing, for being on the Board of Finance, I guess 9 years now, this board has, for the most part, strongly supported education. We have spent millions and millions of dollars rebuilding our schools, and rightfully so. We've supported those projects. We have, for the most part, we've had some differences with respect to the budgets, but we've supported the budgets for the most part also. And I just want to stress that whichever way this comes out, we're going to be okay. All right. I don't know if we're going to restore some monies back to the Board of Ed budget. I think we need to get some more information, but we're going to be fine whichever way it goes. And it's really my strong wish that we all work together on this budget and then moving forward, because the Board of Ed, and I say this with all due respect, they have to do better with respect to some ways that they can save money. I mean, we have a transportation contract and they know this, and I know they're trying to work on it. And it was a problem when I was on the Board of Education. We have buses running that are essentially empty. And it's not an easy thing to solve, but it's extremely costly. So we have to we have to do better to try to save money in areas like that, because that's the benefit of the kids, right? So things of that nature. And on the town side needs to work with the Board of Education and with respect to ways to save money, because if we can do that, it's better for the students, it's better for what happens in the classroom. So I really appreciate all of you coming out today, and you know, let's keep sending us the emails. But I can't stress enough that whichever way this goes, we're going to be okay, and everyone's going to be fine. All right. So thank you so much for coming out, and I appreciate it.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mottola. I'll just try to wrap up quickly. First, I want to thank my colleagues. It's been an honor to work with them. I know everyone's worked extremely hard during this process, as has the towns and the Fairfield Public Schools budget and finance departments to get us where we are. This is an extremely difficult budget year. It is different. We had very significant headwinds this year. One of the most significant being that our town grand list, I think as someone mentioned, grew 0.25%. It's the lowest that I can remember in quite some time. And when that's been higher, it's given us the room to fund a lot of the important initiatives, including education, that everyone would like to see. We don't have that this year. So we've got very little grand list growth. We also, over the past few years, enjoyed a lot more federal and state money. Not the case anymore. Our debt service costs have increased this year because we funded additional capital, particularly into our schools, but also on the town side and critical infrastructure like our sewer systems. We're starting to pay for that. Our pension costs have increased. It's just one of those things. It's a function of who retires and when, and how much we make on our investments and a bunch of other things. But we've had higher fixed costs there. We've had higher fixed costs in healthcare. So there's a variety of headwinds that have made this very difficult. One of the things I would like to point out, and I appreciate Mr. Mottola's comments about the us versus them mentality that we fall into sometimes. I'm here to tell you, nobody got what they wanted during this budget. No one. Our Fairfield Public Schools came in with roughly a 6.5% increase. The town departments had the first selectman fulfilled all their requests, we would be looking at a 7% mill rate increase right now, 7%. And if that were the case, I think this conversation today might be very different, because that would cause everybody to really sit up straight. The reason we got to from 7% to roughly 2% where we are now, it is not exactly a pretty picture. As some of my colleagues have pointed out, we've used reserves. We've had surpluses from prior years that have been used to reduce this budget. I could go either way on that, but those surpluses have effectively been a form of overtaxation in prior years, and using some of those to reduce taxes is a way of giving that money back to taxpayers. So it's something that we don't like to do, because we're going to have to contend with that in the future now as a fiscal cliff, but it's there. So we've used surpluses. We have, the town has included revenue projections for things like speed light cameras and for absorbing the parking authority, which personally I'm in favor of, that benefit us. And these things may not be there to the same extent in the future. We could take those things out of the budget and drive a very significant tax increase. I don't think anybody would appreciate that either. On the town budget, we do not have 8 additional police officers in the budget. That's what they asked for. That's not what they got. They got about half of what they asked for. Our firefighters got a new contract last year with, I believe, a 2.75% salary increase. Their budget's only up 1.2% because they got trimmed in a lot of other areas. Our DPW A lot of departments were asked to defer equipment purchases and a bunch of other things. It is true that there are some increases in the town budget, particularly on the salary side, to bring people up to market, because the town felt that they had to do that to be competitive on salaries, this in the same manner that we needed to do that with the teachers. So you have this confluence of things that just makes it very difficult. But I do think it's important to point that out. No one got what they wanted. There's some unnatural things in this budget that are keeping the numbers as low as they are, or we would be here looking at a very alarming number. And all of that's difficult to grapple with. So we're going to try our best. We've got some critical pieces of information that we're going to look at our last meeting on Monday to see where all of this shakes out. And we'll have to evaluate all of those things together to try to come up with a balance and with a budget that balances the need to fund our critical services and also thinks hard about affordability for all our residents, because that is critically important. The only other thing I would say is, Mr. Penley alluded to this and Mr. Mottola did also. Just on education, I have zero appetite to support any cut that would affect programming for our schools. But as Mr. Mottola mentioned, when I look at ridership on buses and I see, 2 students riding a high school bus, that's not okay. There are ways to look at every budget and make sure that we are getting the best bang for our buck, that we're being as responsible as possible, and that we're redirecting money to our highest priorities. And I still believe there's work to be done there. I'm not saying that's millions of dollars, but I think it's incumbent on us to make sure that with all of the headwinds we have in front of us, we look at all of those things on all sides of the budget, and we do the very best we can to deliver what everyone's asking for at the best cost. So that's our commitment, and I know everyone here is looking forward to do that. So again, thank you so much for coming out today. We appreciate it. We appreciate all the emails, all the advocacy. It's so important. It does shape our thinking, and thank you again to everyone, especially the students and the educators who are here. Thank you.
No, I can't do it tomorrow.